I lived in Greece for a while and did a lot of English as a foreign language recordings. So I was the person who was doing listen and repeat. And it was wonderful. I did it for about 5 companies.
You are now listening to the IELTS podcast.
Hi there, if you want to listen to the episode with the ex-IELTS examiners, in the end I interviewed about 2 or 3 different ex-IELTS examiners. Go over to IELTSPodcast.com and there you can download that specific episode. It's in the pack of the 27 episodes. So go over there if you want to listen to how she marked students down, why she failed some students, what students should do, the attitude they should have, and generally just how to improve your score and how to get the IELTS so you can move on and get it all out of the way and get to the university or get to the country that you are aiming for, get the job you're aiming for. So go over to IELTSPodcast.com and check that out. And of course, enjoy this episode. Tim, could you tell us about yourself, please, and how you study, how you know how to teach essay writing and your experience, and just a brief overview, if that's all right.
Well, I've been teaching for, I think, 30 years. I started teaching while I was still studying at university because I ran out of money. And I started teaching very, very small children, particularly 5-year-olds and so on. And I've been teaching the whole range from very small right the way up to university students. And I fell into teaching English as a foreign language really by being abroad.
Yeah.
And needing something to do and listening to the sort of nonsense that so many English teachers were actually giving out to their students.
Yeah.
And I think I also got headhunted for my voice. Some people wanted me to do voice recording, and I was only too happy to do it.
I see.
And that was very useful. Also, I illustrate. I do drawings, and I worked for a short while making animated films for some quite famous films, actually. And I still do this now. I do it with my own company, and so and so I thought one thing that I could do now was to combine all these various skills and make films for YouTube about teaching, and I throw in a little bit of animation to try and speed up the information.
I see.
So
yes.
While I'm talking, I can have some text animating behind my head, or if I feel I'm getting particularly boring, I can replace myself with a chicken, which can say the same things, but it will be more memorable than me.
Yeah, because that's how I found you. I was looking through YouTube, and then I found this. I think it's one of the best videos out there, because it's entertaining, and the information there is like gold, which is why I got in contact. I was like, wow, this needs to be explained. It needs to be fleshed out a bit, and So I'll put the video up with the post.
Please do. I'm determined actually to make something similar, which is directed absolutely at the IELTS audience.
You should.
The audience of students who are trying to do English as a foreign language, because the feedback I've had from that video has partly come from students in university who are native speakers, who are struggling with having to write university essays or school essays. That's one half, and then I can guarantee about 50% of the comments that I get are from people who are doing English as a foreign language.
Yes.
And the question and the formula, which is this 5-paragraph thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Remains the same whether you're a native speaker or doing English as a foreign language. But it needs a little bit more clarification if you're doing English as a foreign language, because you just need to simplify it a bit. And there's a second half to that essay writing video which is about how to use a quotation, and I think that's not really valuable to the international audience.
No, I don't think the quotes. It's not the most. No, usually when it's the IELTS essay, it's 250 words, and it'll be extremely difficult, I think, to incorporate a quote into the.
Absolutely. No, I've taught IELTS.
Yeah.
And I understand it. I don't like the exam because it's an exam which and I don't know whether you need to keep this in your interview, but quite honestly, it's an exam which is based on failure, because you can never really succeed at IELTS. You're always going to be less than perfect. You're either going to get a 7, or you're going to get a 6, or you're going to get a 7.5 or something. So it's always a little bit disappointing, I think.
I see. I've never seen it like that. I was explaining it to one student, and he saw it as an advantage because he was like, it's impossible to fail, because if you do like the Cambridge first, and you don't get the sufficient things,
Cambridge first, absolutely.
Yeah.
But there's a certain, there's something there's a particular goal. If you can get that goal, you've scored, you've got it, you've got the Cambridge first. Similarly with the proficiency, with the IELTS, you're going to come out with a score, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
It may be good, it may not be so good. All the exams, what's fascinating, and I've taught them all of the exams are essentially the same. They're based on the idea that students will come back and say, oh, my reading's not good, or my listening's not good, or my writing's not good. 9 times out of 10, the problem is that they aren't reading anything themselves in their own free time. If you're going to score highly, if you're going to get a high score in IELTS, you have to read. That's the first thing.
Exactly.
And it's the reading which is letting people down. And all these exams work on the same principle. They give you slightly too much to do in a period of time because they don't want you to be thinking in your native language.
Yes.
So the more you're thinking in English and not translating, the quicker you're going to be.
Yes.
And that requires practice, and that requires reading in order to get to that point. You will never get a good score on IELTS if you are translating in your head.
Of course, yeah. That's true.
So the less you're translating, the higher your score is going to be. And the proficiency is the same thing. It gives you slightly too much to do.
Mm-hmm.
To try and measure how much you're doing in that time.
Yes.
And then on top of that, all these exams are because they're going out all over the world. They try very hard not to be controversial. So inevitably, they're incredibly boring. All the topics they get you to write about are the topics where, frankly, you just want to knock your head against the wall.
Exactly.
I have no interest in traffic control.
I know. Everybody says the same. They say, how am I expected to write an essay about youth detention centres and crime in the Western world? And I have absolutely no interest. I don't know anybody who's a criminal. I've never been to jail. What am I supposed to do? And you're supposed to write 250 words, put in my own opinion. Come on, give us a break.
Let's just take one or two of those examples, like youth delinquency or jail. I mean, would you like to go to jail?
Not again.
Right,
just joking.
There you are. We wouldn't like to go. We all have an opinion, in fact, on subjects that we have no interest in.
Yeah.
We just so in the IELTS exam, because it's an exam, because we've been told, or as a student we might have been told, that we have to say something significant, or we have to cover the subject. We think, I know nothing about this. In fact, if you stop and calm down, you've got an opinion, and that's all we're looking for. These subjects are really like a springboard to give us an opportunity to judge your English, not your ability to talk about crime.
Too true. Yes, very
so
true.
You can articulate a decent argument about your opinions on this subject.
Yes.
Which you have.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question about it. Then you can get a good mark. The next thing is to try and find out how to do it in a logical and ordered way, and that involves planning. And that's what my essay writing talk is about. It's about sitting down and planning the essay. Resist the temptation to start writing the moment you see the essay title. Spend with IELTS, I think even spend slightly more time. Spend 5 minutes planning. Write down all your thoughts about actually all the thoughts in your head, even the stuff about the shopping you've still got to do. Just get it out of your head and get it onto paper. Get it out of the way. And then once you've written these things down, you'll see the things which are relevant and the things which you can use, and then just put them in order: 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's the key to writing an IELTS essay.
Okay, so I'll just go over that. So we see this question, this crazy question about a topic that we have very little interest and we don't usually think about. We just relax, look for the opinion, and start writing everything down, but not in essay form, just in like shorthand, for example.
Shorthand, just short notes. Just get everything out of your head. Just put it on paper very, very quickly. It doesn't need to be in any order. And then try and relax as you're doing it. Do breathing exercises, and stop panicking.
Right.
And then, so as you're writing, think about what your basic opinion is on this subject. It's really good when you're writing an essay at whatever level if you think of your conclusion.
Jump to the conclusion first.
Yeah, jump to your conclusion first. That will really give you an idea of what you're going to say. Your conclusion shouldn't be a surprise to you. It should be a surprise to the reader, not to you. It's like you're a magician. Yeah. You can't be a magician unless you actually know how to do the trick. The trick should not be a surprise to you. The trick is a surprise to the audience, not to you. So you need to know where you're going. You need to know that you've got an opinion. And then with the IELTS essay, let's say you're doing a boring essay about criminal detention or I don't know, traffic.
Yeah. Okay, traffic. Yeah.
You need to know where what your final opinion is going to be.
Yes, and then work backwards.
And then work backwards. So that means you've got your conclusion. Your conclusion should be no more than one sentence long. Do use paragraphs even in an IELTS essay, even in 250 words. You can still use a paragraph or two.
Yes.
A paragraph will help structure something. It will help to give it the impression that it's logical. And logic is the essence of essay writing. Each paragraph is an individual idea.
Yeah.
It's not the same as a sentence. A sentence is a grammatical structure, but a paragraph is an idea, is a contained thought.
Yes.
And then when that thought is finished, you move on to another paragraph. With the 5-paragraph essay, with the academic essay,
yes.
You have an introduction, you have a conclusion, and in between those, sandwiched between those, you have 2 or 3 paragraphs.
Yeah.
Now, those 2 or 3 paragraphs work like this. The first paragraphs, let's say, so paragraph 2 and paragraph 3, are there simply to reassure the reader that you know what you're talking about.
Yes.
So in IELTS, look at your essay title. Most essay titles can be reduced to an argument, for and against.
Yeah.
So think of arguments for driving on the left-hand side of the road, and think of the arguments against driving on the left-hand side, driving on the right-hand side of the road. Yeah. And then also, as you're thinking about these, as you write them down, is there one argument that really sticks out? If there is, hold back on that, because that's your next paragraph. That's the paragraph where you smack the guy, the reader, in between the eyes, and you say, "Ha! You see, I really knew what I was doing." And that's that you can have energy about, and that's your essay.
Yes.
So people say, I'm going to do an American accent, aren't I? People say, "Oh, how do I get the attention of the reader? Do I have to say something really exciting in the introduction?" No. What you do in the introduction is you say what you understand by the question. You reassure. You don't need fireworks in the introduction. Your fireworks occur towards the end of the essay.
I see. Yes.
In that bit which becomes personal.
Right.
Maybe you've got a story to tell. That's your personal bit. Maybe your story will bring to life this final point, and the conclusion follows automatically from that.
I see. So we're getting, basically trying to pick up the main chunk of points in the paragraph. The introduction's just there, just to show the examiner in this case that this is how I understood, and this is where we're going. Just a rough idea, just a rough demonstration.
You don't need to, particularly in an IELTS essay, you don't need to specify exactly what you're going to do. But the important thing is, try and get it out of your head that the introduction is a place where you attack the and where you pin your identity to the wall. The problem with that approach is that the chances are that you're going to fizzle out before you get to the end of the essay.
Yes.
And this is where the plan is. The plan is that you do your fizzling in the paragraph just before you finish, in the few sentences before you finish the essay. You want to finish on a high. You want to go back to our image of the magician doing a magic trick. You want the audience to be clapping by the time the curtain comes down. You don't want the audience sort of booing and cheers. And you don't want to be looking at your watch. If you find you're looking at your watch while you're writing, if you find you're not enjoying it, then the reader's not going to enjoy it either. So that's where the plan is. The plan is to find that one thing that could really excite you about this incredibly boring subject. And
I see.
Will be something that will excite you.
I see. I understand.
Look at the question, and the introduction is there to analyze the question. There will always be a key word or two in the introduction which you can question, which you can think, this is really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And that you might play around with that word, and you might question whether that word is valuable or whatever. You'll find something to do with it.
I see. Okay, that's
and all. Absolutely essential is, as you're writing, when you've been writing for about 10 minutes or 15 minutes, go back and check that you're writing about the question. Just go back and check the question, because there's every chance, if you follow this technique, that you get so excited by that one point that you've gone off the question and you're not answering the question anymore. So just make sure you are answering the question, but you need to find something that's going to energize you.
I see. Just to keep it going, just to keep motivated. Well, just to show it in your writing. Sorry.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, don't be afraid in IELTS particularly to be personal. Tell me a story. Storytelling is the basis of all communication. So we come back to this thing. You don't need to prove that you know everything about traffic control, or you know everything about criminal detention or corporal punishment, or whatever the other dull subjects are. You're not going to know very much about these subjects, or electricity. But you can have an opinion, and you can have a personal story to tell. Everybody's got a personal story to tell about electricity. I mean, I remember once when I wanted to stop my brother using his record player, and I took out the fuse from the from the plug, and that didn't seem to stop him. He found the fuse and put in another one, and I'm really going to do it now. And I was only about 10, and I unscrewed the socket from the wall. And there were these two big wires facing me, and I thought, those are a bit too close together. So I put my hand on one, and I put my hand on the other one, and I shot across the room. That was the most enormous electric shock. Introduction to electricity. So sort of story would be very interesting. I would be excited to read.
Well, what I was going to ask you next was, a lot of students, they have difficulty during writing enough words, and during the essay they will start counting the words and then just start putting in those horrible words or horrible chunks of words. That's instead of saying because, they'll say this is the reason why, you know, and it turns from making their words count, which they should do, to counting their words, which is what happens. But it's a totally natural process if you're not 100% confident. Is there a way, or
Yes,
could you give us an advice to that?
there's two things. First of all, stop counting words. Practice so that you have a visual of how many of how big a 250 word essay will be, and you start to feel it. I'm getting up to 250 words. So do it enough so that you actually so you're familiar with the length of essay that you should be writing. That's the first thing. Second thing is, if you want to increase your word count, stop using abbreviations like there, don't, aren't.
Yes.
You should be using are not, do not, they are. As a matter of fact, you should be doing that.
Of course, yes. Yeah, formal essays.
So that's that's one way you're going to push your essay count up by 10 words, simply by doing that as a matter of routine.
Yes. And what happens if you've run out of ideas during the essay and you've said everything that you thought that you want to say or that you can say?
If you plan, you're generally going to have more ideas than you can possibly write.
Yeah.
So the reason you run out of ideas is because you haven't planned and you started off with a fizzle, with sort of bang, and then you fizzled out.
Yeah.
And run out of ideas. Now, what happens is, in order to increase that word count, people inevitably start adding sentences which are complete waffle at the end.
This is it. This is what needs to be eliminated.
So this is my advice. If you have to add waffle, please add it in the middle of the essay, near the beginning. Because the examiner, despite what you think, the examiner isn't going to stop reading your essay because it's boring at the beginning. The examiner is going to stop reading your essay because it's boring at the end. So if you're going to be boring, if you're going to waffle at the beginning. And
I see.
Save your end. Punchy. Now, the next thing is, if you want to decorate your essay, I mean, this is all sort of seat of the pants, desperate remedies for somebody who really has run out of ideas.
Yeah.
Okay. If you want to decorate your essay, start using adjectives.
And just fill it up.
Fill it up with adjectives. Adjectives are always lovely. And once you start putting in adjectives, you might find little adjectival phrases that come to your mind. You might find, the best of all solutions to a lack of words is a story.
I see. And just tell a little bit of a story during the essay.
Give me an example of something.
I see. Yes, of course.
Everybody's got an example. Write what you can, and then go back and throw in a really good example of something. Tell a story. Tell me a story about you. It doesn't have to be about something important. It can be a story about you. You are always important. Your life is not my life, therefore I'm interested in it.
Yes.
It's not the life I have lived. And you may have skills that I have no idea about. I'm a boring examiner sitting in Cambridge or wherever I sit actually. But yes, it's that life doesn't really exist in practice, I think. But
I see.
Tell me stories.
Yes.
Everybody's story to tell. What's extraordinary is the moment the IELTS exam finishes, and you've got all these students sort of sweating and terrified and very silent. They run out and they start talking, 2 to the dozen.
Yeah.
When they stop writing. So bring that energy into the exam. And
Great advice.
all your stories are valuable, and you will find a story that will fill up those extra words. But ideally, stop counting words altogether.
I see. Yeah.
And so the other thing is, use adjectives. Adjectives are always your friend. Adjectives are always your best friend. Because they're always exciting friends. And
keep going. Sorry.
Try not to use adverbs.
Okay. Good.
An adverb generally means that you've got the wrong verb.
I see. and you just need to modify it a little bit. Just put an afterthought on.
Yes. So for example, he was running slowly. No, he wasn't. He was walking. He was walking very fast. No, he was running. Basically, if you've got if you feel the desire to put in an adverb to spice up your sentence, you've got the wrong verb. But an adjective is always useful. You cannot go wrong with a good adjective. Now, what else? And another way you can increase your word count is to make sure that your sentences are joining each other logically.
Yes.
Your speaking will improve.
Of course. Yes.
And people who say, "Oh, there are 3 points here which are significant." 1, and then they talk about something for about 10 minutes. 2, and you think, "Oh my goodness, you actually did have order." It's a trick. And the more, and thirdly, and finally, or 3.
Yeah, I find if there's. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, the more you practice it, the more it will come naturally.
Yes, yeah, and having a good control of writing, usually, well, with native speakers, it's often the case. A good control of writing usually transfers into a good control of speaking and thinking and more clarity. However, with second language students, it's not always the case. They can write sometimes really well, but it often doesn't transfer into a similar ability with the speaking. Hello there, guys. I cut this interview up because me and Tim, we were speaking for about 2 hours. And at this point in the interview, we just jumped to another subject. So I decided to cut it off there. The next episode, the next part of the interview, will be out probably next week. So keep an eye out for that. Tim's going to just give us more valuable advice. And I just wanted to say that I would strongly recommend you sign up for the email list because there's plenty of offers on there. And students send me emails asking me for tips, for help, and to be honest, I put the best stuff on that email list, and there we cover lots of material. So remember to sign up there. And one last favour, if you could, I'd really appreciate it, but I'm trying to get 50 podcast reviews, iTunes reviews for this year. So if you can, I'd really appreciate it if you could go and give us a 5-star iTunes review. That'd be absolutely fantastic. Okay, thanks very much.
Thanks for listening to IELTSPodcast.com.